So today I'm going to be walking you through our garden, and I'm going to show you what we've planted and how we planted those things and the type of beds we prepared and how we prepared them. So you can see in the picture here, this is coriander, and if you can see closely, there are some insects which happen to be pollinators, and this is very good for pollination. So you have to plant a variety of flowering herbs, variety of flowering flowers around your garden to attract pollinators. So we planted a line of coriander, and it is blossoming, is flowering, and our main interest is the flowers because they attract beneficial insects which help with pollination. So I hope you're going to enjoy the tour as we are going through around the garden. Is a bed of beetroots, and this is all organic. As you can see, it is only 2 months old. So if you can see how big this beetroot is, so you can see it's very healthy. It's looking very nice, no chemical whatsoever. And if you can see how our soil is, we used a lot of goat manure. You can see I can even dig with my hands. So you can see how rich it is to go down. So meaning this means that when you are preparing it, so make sure you loosen it as much as possible. And I always watch for people who step on the bed so that they don't compact the bed. So we also planted some watermelon. These are lines of okra. So this okra is actually flowering. It is flowering. So we've got 4 lines of okra, and we are going to replace the okra with the bananas. Very soon they're going to be catching up, they're going to be taking over. Because if you were to calculate how much money we can make from bananas compared to the money we're going to be making from the okra, you find that we're going to make more money from bananas than from okra. Then this side we also planted some bananas. So as I told you that we also planted some herbs. So this is sage, some sweet basil. Flowers, they attract beneficial insects. So we also planted some lettuce. See, lettuce is very easy to grow. It is one kick, you won't have problems with. Then with tomatoes, we've got cherry tomatoes also, which are super easy to grow, very disease resistant, doesn't need a lot of water. And you can see how they are fruiting. And you see these tomatoes are very healthy compared to these tomatoes which we buy on a daily basis from the stores. And if you were to do a market research, you find that they're on high demand. So, and no one is growing them. So if you venture into this one, you are guaranteed. So if you can see how our beds are arranged, they are very straight, very organized. So our soil is very loose. The way we worked on it, you can even dig with your hands. It's not hard. Hello, welcome now to our practical session. This is where it gets more interesting. This is where you can differentiate a real farmer from a farmer who cites theories about farming. So this is where you're going to see who is really an organic farmer, because farming is not just about knowing organic farming, it's about putting the knowledge into practice. Now here is where you're going to give yourself a challenge to prove yourself, whether you are a radical farmer or whether you are whosoever, whatever name you give yourself. But the point is, in farming, you have to know how to work with the soil practically. Now this is where we get on the practical level. We get our hands dirty. We utilize the tools that we say that we need to be farmers. You cannot be a soldier and don't know how to hold a hand. You cannot be a soldier and don't know how to shoot at an enemy. So what I'm trying to say is, this is where now we are going to be preparing the soil. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you how you work with the soil. So there are 3 methods you can prepare the soil. I said 3 methods. How about that one? So you can prepare the soil depending on the current state it is in. If your soil is very much depleted, you can use what we call trenching. So trenching is you dig the soil up to 60 centimeters deep, putting each 30 centimeter layer aside. Then the other also you put it on the other side. Then at the bottom you put organic matter. It may be leaves, it may be pieces of wood, small pieces of wood. You may put manure there. You are building the soil, so that by the time the roots reach the bottom of your subsoil, they'll have enough nutrients. Now this can be done when even in very, very poor soil. Now this method is used in extreme poor soil. So you measure your beds. I'm going to show you how to measure your beds. Then you dig a trench, then fill it with organic matter, then you bury it. Then after burying it, you plant your crops on top. Then secondly, there's what we call double digging. Now this is where you dig you dig your bed 30 centimeter. You put the soil aside, then the 30 centimeter you loosen it with a fork. No wonder I said as a gardener you need a fork. This tool is very powerful. It's far much better than a hoe, because a hoe disturbs the soil so much compared to the fork. The fork just loosens the soil, and you're going to see how we're going to be working with the fork. So it's very important as a farmer you get to know how to work with your tools to get the results you want. The key is in soil preparation. The more you know how to prepare the soil, the more you get best results out of your soil. So you see, a farmer is more important than a president. He's more important than the technicians, even the guys who make computers, because making food is primary. Making food is key. You see, at home when there's no food, you know what happens. So it's the duty of the farmer to supply food on the table. It's the duty of the farmer to supply food in all these stores, even in the White House, even in the State House, so that the president can eat and can talk. No one can live, no one can work without eating. So a farmer plays a critical role in whatsoever he does to make sure that food is provided on the table. So let's get our hands dirty and do what is supposed to be done before you plant your crops. The way you prepare your soil will determine whether you're going to fail or succeed. Now, here are a number of things which we're going to do before we work on our soil. Number one, we are going to clear the surrounding. Make sure that there is no dirty, there is no grass around. We are going to clear the surrounding. Secondly, you don't have to do mediocre work, you have to do an excellent work. So you have to measure your beds. You need a rope, you may use a wire, but anything, but just make sure that your beds are very, very excellent. Your beds are very neat and very well organized. So the spacing we're going to be using is, each bed is going to be 1 meter width. The width is going to be 1 meter. It's not supposed to be more than that, because you're going to be tempted to step on the bed when you're working on it. It is always best to give it 1 meter. The 1 meter is actually a standard for quality beds. So meaning you can work on it from this side and that other side. Then the spacing between the beds is supposed to be 0.5
meters, that is half a meter. So meaning you're going to be working between that row on this side, on that other side. Then the other thing, after measuring our bed, we are going to mark. You can either use rime or you can use ashes, but you can use your initiative to make sure that the marks are visible. When you are working on your bed, it is very clear. You know where you are passing. Make sure that your beds are well organized. They are looking very neat, very smart. Then after that, that's when now we're going to choose to use which method depending on the soil, how your soil is. If you need a trench, you see that here we need a trench if your soil is very depleted. If we need double digging is whereby you remove one layer, you put it aside, then you loosen the second layer, which is 30 centimeter, then the other 30 centimeter you loosen it with a fork, then you add organic matter and some manure, building the soil. Then single digging, this is the method you use on well-developed soil. So you don't have to dig, you just loosen the first 30 centimeters. The more loosen your soil is, the better your crops are going to thrive, the better the water is going to be moving. Because if you don't prepare your soil very well, the other side is compact, the other side is well loosened. What will happen is that when you water this side, your water is going to be going sloppy like that. Then after preparing our soil, we add manure. We feed the soil. So we are not feeding the plant, we are feeding the soil so that the soil can feed the plant. So before we plant, we have to make sure that food is made available. Scientists have proven that a crop determines how much yield it will give in the first 14 days of it being in the soil. So meaning the availability of the nutrients, it is going to program itself, looking at the environment to say, okay, we need so much. With so much nutrients, we can make so much food. No wonder you find that even when you're applying, you feed your plant when it is already grown, it is impossible it will still give you the same poor yield. So preparation of the soil is key here, and that is what we are going to be doing. So stay tuned and make sure that you have to practice, and I'm going to require you to send me the pictures of how you are going to prepare your soil, even a very small portion, but get your hands dirty, get involved. Even when you're instructing your workers, you cannot share what you don't have. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot teach someone how to drive when you've never driven yourself. So get to understand, get to work with your soil. You have to get your hands dirty, even if you are the manager. Like, I'll give you an example. At our farm, no one outworks me. My workers always find me working and they leave me working. And I'm the role model. So I set an example for my farm, and they have to follow, the workers have to follow. So since we are into this business of farming, we have to know how to work with the soil, but we're not always going to be working with the soil. As we learn how to work with the soil, we can train someone who is going to be working with the soil as we do other things running at the farm. So it will be great to hear from you and see what you're going to do. Stay tuned as we get to work here as we are radicalizing organic farming. You hold your focus like this. You see this focus like this. So this length from here to here is 30 centimeters. So now when I position my fork like this. And one thing I didn't mention is that before you do this, you have to water your garden. Before you work on it, you have to water it so that it becomes easier for you to work on it. Like mine, I had watered it before, so it is going to be easier for me to work on it. The soil is going to be loose and not very compact. So when I place my fork here, it can easily get into the soil. So then it is getting stuck at a certain point. So when we talk about single digging, so single digging is whereby you press your fork like this, then you loosen the soil like this. So this is what we call single digging. And once you work on your soil, you don't have to step on it. So you see, so I just do 3 forks here. So one here, this is the second one, then the third one here. When you have just finished making your bed, make sure that now it is time to water the bed. Now I want you to see the difference. So let's say we water it before we mulch. So you see what is going to happen? What is happening that the water is digging a hole here. So to make sure we don't want this kind of of behavior in the soil. So it is going to, you can see it has dug a hole here. So we don't want this. So what we do before we plant, we make sure that we do what? We mulch our bed. And this is what I'm going to do. Before I even water the bed, before I plant, I have to make sure that I cover it.